doesn't get old unless, of course, you're from Louisiana. I'll tell you what else it might grow a little old for is that you gotta feel like if the Saints had won the Super Bowl, would Drew Brees come back? I mean, that's the way you're supposed to go off, right? You know, Jim Brown, 1964, John Elway, 1998, Jerome Bettis, 2005. Supposed to walk up. Peyton Manning, for crying out loud. Can't believe I didn't think of that. Peyton Manning just 2 years ago. That's the way you're supposed to go out, right? Win the Super Bowl, tip the cap, you go out on top. Well, now, the thing is, Manning fans, one of them, but also a Drew Brees fan, if Brees comes back, then he is definitely going to break Peyton Manning's all-time yardage mark in the NFL. He's less than 1,500 yards behind it. Get that in 5 games, So you'd think that, that record is very precarious. And I remember talking to Todd Graffanini, who is the voice of the Tulane Green Wave and a big Saints fan, and he's been on this show, and he knows what's going on there. And he says, I really don't think that Brees would be motivated by that, but winning the Super Bowl when you came that close, when that was what prevented you from doing it, yeah, you could see where you'd want to come back again and such. And, Brees is still at the top of his game. He's now got a developing defense, a good running game. Why not? Ingram, Kamara, all of that. Hello, I'm Marky Billson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City sports fans. The name of the program is Tri-City Sports Now, and we own the Tri-Cities on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities. What to discuss here? Of course, big news yesterday, Mike Mularkey was let go as Tennessee Titans head coach. We'll have some candidates maybe that might replace him. We also, though, have learned Quentin Dormandy will not be a Tennessee Volunteer any longer. Played his last game. I don't think that's good news for Tennessee. Not at all. Not at all. I think that you're looking at a circumstance where the best quarterback of last year is the one not coming back. We have a big hockey game going on in Tennessee. Predators are taking hold. They're only 4 points back of the Vegas Golden Knights. Who saw that coming? Oh, yeah, it was me. Who are in first place in the Western Conference, first overall seed, but they're 4 points back. The 4 points are because Vegas and Nashville have played twice this year, and the Golden Knights have won both games. I'm going to break down that game a little bit for you, because I'm the only guy in this market who can do that. And honestly, in the state, that's the biggie sporting event today. What else do we have? We've got all sorts of things talking about. Some odds and ends that I forgot to mention earlier on in the program. We'll be looking at, obviously baseball coming about. Local news, there's a golf course, of course, that they're talking about in Unicoi. Maybe try to get something on that. And before I go any further, there is a high school basketball game and games. Johnson County at Sullivan South. Were you planning on attending that one? Well, you'll have to do it tomorrow because it has been postponed to tomorrow due to that. I passed a school bus letting people off. And that shows you the influence of this show. Because, quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with the roads right now. It's just a little chilly. And it's not chilly by, say, Canada standards. So, they're letting schools out around here. Okay, that's fine. I always liked that when I was a kid. And the reason why is because I got to listen to sports talk shows. Well, actually, I guess at the time, the 24/7 sports talk radio program wasn't there. But there were, began at 6 usually back in that day, was when the sports talk program started up. And what we have now, though, is the case for me, Marky Billson, to educate the culture of East Tennessee as you tune in to AM 1420, NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities, and you learn the latest in the culture. That's what makes sports so important. There's the unity that they provide, and that's why I think rooting for the home team is so important, where, yes, you have with East Tennessee State, let's say, the Tri-Cities community, as that is the team of the Tri-Cities, coming together to root for the Buccaneers. Something you talk about in the lines, that you wait in at the bank or whatever. There's something to be said for that. There is the culture. And certainly sports have a lot of different cultures. The NBA and NASCAR are two totally different cultures, let's face it. There are the cultures and the advancement of those cultures, if you will, that go through sports. And I think even more so than movies, music, literature, whatever. I really believe that. And that's what makes these shows so important, if you will. And the other thing is that sports, they do, especially baseball, they provide us with a bit of a sense of history. But football pretty much as well. Baseball history goes back to, Harry Wright in the 19th century, and for that matter, 1845, when, the New York Nine and the Knickerbockers played a 4-inning game at the Elysian Fields in Hoboken. There's something that baseball has a connection with its past of 100 years ago and beyond that other sports don't. But I do think football kind of has it, and I think one of the reasons why baseball is literary in so many cases. And football, you start thinking football history, you start thinking NFL films, John Facenda, that Super Bowl highlight film. Super Bowl coming up used to be that you would get up on Super Bowl Sunday. You can't obviously do this anymore. There are too many Super Bowls. And beginning in the middle of the night, like at 3 a.m., ESPN would rerun every Super Bowl highlight film there was, beginning with Super Bowl I. I remember once getting up at 2:30 to watch these all the way through. And you would learn the history of every Super Bowl, and then you would go watch the Super Bowl, which was always a turkey game, but, nevertheless. But with the play you heard to begin the show, the Minneapolis Miracle, Stephon Diggs' 61-yard touchdown reception from Case Keenum on the final play of Minnesota's 29-24 victory against the Nolans Saints. Where does that rank among the greatest plays in football history? People were trying to immediately come up with that. And I've got my own thought on that as well. And it goes down to, this is sports. This is the legacy. This is history. This is where were you when? Hopefully you didn't tune off the game because you thought the Saints had it won. This is, you never give up. This is all those lessons that you're supposed to learn here. Anyway, Chris Case of USA Today, he came up with an intriguing article. And he had the 11 greatest plays in, I guess, playoff football history. Or would they be football history? I don't know. I might say, and even though it's not the record anymore, regular season history, I think you got to look at Tom Dempsey's 63-yard field goal. Doing it with half a foot, and the upset, and the improbability, and the fact that he was kicking it from the 37-yard line, his own 37, because the goalposts were on the goal line at that time. I think all of that, the first, talking to the Saints, I guess Tracy Porter's interception, that's going to be possibly the biggest play in Saints history. After all, it won him the Super Bowl when he picked off Peyton Manning. But it's hard to argue against, that 63-yard field goal being the biggest play in Saints history. Anyway, and the one thing it does have is it's had all these years for its legacy to grow. But Chris Case, USA Today, rated the Minneapolis Miracle the 7th greatest play in football history, pro football history at least. Playoff history, all his picks were in the playoffs. Like I said, I'm trying to think of great plays. The Holy Roller would be another one. Essentially thinking, why is it illegal? If you could actually bat a fumble forward, that seems to me to be a pretty low percentage play. But if you could get away with it, why wouldn't that count? Why would that be illegal? Why is that illegal today? You know, if you can fumble the ball forward or something, I guess people would start thinking, you can't do that. You'd have ball carriers, throwing the ball 10 yards out of bounds or something. It's not flagrant. Okay, maybe you got something, but, I don't know. I just didn't like, and there's always that thing where, the ball is fumbled in the last 2 minutes and the game's over. You know that, even if somebody else picks it up, only the player fumbling the ball can advance it, it's kind of party poopers that way. But anyway, Case, USA Today, Chris Case, okay, Minneapolis Miracle, 7th greatest play in football history. He has it ahead of John Riggins, Super Bowl 17, 4th and 1. What do they call that? Was that, it was something gut. I'm trying to remember. Was it 40 gut was the name of the play? I'm trying to recall. Joe Bugle. And speaking of Super Bowl highlight films, that's where Joe Bugle just explains what the play is and all this. And the name of the play. Joe Bugle was the offensive line coach of the Washington Redskins at the time. He would later become an NFL head coach. But yeah, Riggins on 4th and 1, the 40-odd yard run against the Dolphins in Super Bowl 17 that won the football game for the Redskins. A good football game in that Super Bowl, which in that era was something of a rarity. Super Bowls now are pretty entertaining, all things considered. I mean, obviously, look at last year. He ranked it behind Bart Starr's quarterback sneak in the Ice Bowl. And I was surprised, but I don't know if I'd put that in the top 11 plays. I mean, great game, historic game, all this. But is that a great single play? That's Adam Vinatieri kicking a field goal or something to win a Super Bowl. Okay, but we've seen people kick field goals to win ball games before. Why is Vinatieri ahead of Jim O'Brien in Super Bowl 5? I mean, think about this here for a second. It's a field goal. This is a quarterback sneak. There's nothing really that we see these every game. There's nothing really that artistic and really that special about it. Wins the ball game, we give you that. Wins an important ball game, we give you that. Fine. But is that then one of the top 10 plays in football history? Or is that a moment of the season on which it occurred, which I would argue it is? I think the Minneapolis Miracle deserves to be higher than number 7 that Case gives it, and I think it will go up in time if a few things happen. I think it'll go up very shortly, in fact, in the ratings of such plays and, recordings of destiny and so on and so forth. Top play in football history, Case has it this way. It's pretty universally accepted. It's the Immaculate Reception. Why not? It paved the way for the Steelers dynasty of the 70s, literally changed the perception of the franchise from losers to winners. Throw in, it was the first NFL play in history that utilized instant replay. The nickname, the Immaculate Reception, just is better than the catch. It's just better than, the Minneapolis Miracle, the Music City Miracle. No, the Immaculate Reception, that stands alone as a name. It's like when Frank DeFord once said, actually the guy who gave it the name, who started to christen it, is Myron Cope, Steelers broadcaster. A fan had said, I came up with this, and Cope started using it. And Cope knew something about that. He was a writer, and he once talked about, he wrote a football book on old football players, and he said, I had to decide to write about either, and you're talking old-time football players here, Bulldog Turner or Mel Hine, both of whom were great centers in bygone eras. And he chose Bulldog Turner, and he said, why? And he said, the quaintness of his name, Bulldog Turner. Just sounds better than Mel Hine. And because he wrote about Turner, and Turner was something of a personality with stories to tell, that probably has Turner ranked ahead of Hine in most historians' rankings of all-time historic football players. The quaintness of the name. So yeah, the Immaculate Reception, it means something just because of the name. Just like, who's going to pick your football games? Well, if it's George Smith, well, what does he know? A guy named Jimmy the Greek. Well, they must know something, right? Frank DeFord made that comment. There was the celebration on the field for the Immaculate Reception. There's the improbability of the play. The fact it was a deflected pass, who could see that coming? Plus, it taught us physics. Oh, no, that wasn't a kid, blah, blah. All the Raiders whining and all that. And you get physics. People saying, no, this play actually had to happen the way it did for the Steelers to score. You actually have professors coming out doing this. It's, no other play does that. There's an artistic value to the play. There's the players involved. This means something. How many of you know, I'm trying to remember the guys, I can't even remember this now, the name of the player. The record for most hits in a Major League Baseball game is 9. It was occurred in 1932 by, and the guy went 9 for 11. And I can't think of the player's name all of a sudden. And I used to know this, and it's killing me. But that's the record for hits in a game, 9 in a game, okay? And yeah, we can't remember the player. Who has the record for most points in an NBA game with 100? It's Wilt Chamberlain. That means something, because it's a real star that has the record. Johnny Sewell? Is that the guy that has the record? The guy who went 9 for 11. I can't remember the man's name. Johnny Burnett played for the Indians. But the Immaculate Reception, look at the players involved in it. Bradshaw, Harris, I don't even have to give you their first names. Tatum, Fuqua, Frenchie, okay. Yeah. Real first name was John. Antoine, the director, that's his nephew. You go to the Western Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. It's a branch of the Smithsonian Institute, for crying out loud. They play the Immaculate Reception at the museum once every 5 minutes. Think about that. That's how big that play is. The Minneapolis Miracle, though, does have a couple of things going for it in favorable comparison to the Immaculate Reception. For instance, it's been 41 years since the Vikings have made the Super Bowl. They've never won it. The Immaculate Reception was special because it was the Steelers' first playoff victory after 39 years of not winning any playoff games. They were, they were the Browns of the NFL before the Immaculate Reception. They'd never won a playoff game, And, in fact, before then, the Browns were thought to be pretty big winners, to tell you the truth. So it changed the perception not only of that, Browns-Steelers rivalry, but just changed the perception of the franchise, changed the perception. They went on to, be the team of the 70s. Now, the Vikings over the last 41 years, they have won some playoff games, but they've always been the franchise that fell short in their entire history. They won the NFL title in 1969, can't even be called world champions. They lose the Super Bowl. If this play propels the Vikings to their first ever Super Bowl victory, and it could, then it has the element of destiny that so many of these great plays have in NFL history, like, for instance, the play I'd rank as number 2, which is the catch. Joe Montana to Dwight Clark. Catch wasn't just this miracle leap on 3rd down that put the 49ers in the Super Bowl. It signified a changing of the guard in the National Football Conference and really in the NFL. You knew that after that catch, the 49ers were going to be on their way up and Dallas was going to be on their way down. And it may have taken really a few years for that to really take hold, but you knew that there was a changing of the guard at that moment at least in the conference, if not the entire NFL. 49ers won the Super Bowl 2 weeks later. Joe Montana, after the catch, his face was on the cover of, not Sports Illustrated, Time magazine. Dynasty was started. Wiped away the frustrations that the 49ers had 10 years before. 71 and 72, the 49ers lose heartbreaking playoff games at Candlestick to the Cowboys. Back-to-back seasons. Steve Spurrier played in the game in 72. Dallas overcame a 15-point deficit in an era before 2-point conversions were adopted in the NFL in the fourth quarter to beat the 49ers 30-28. It was one of Roger Staubach's greatest victories. Really, might have even been the game that Well, he had won the Super Bowl the year before, now that I think about it, the season before. So he was established as the Cowboys starting quarterback over Craig Morton by that time. But anyway. Happened the same day, by the way, that comeback as the Immaculate Reception. So I can say that maybe the catch doesn't have the legendary status of the Immaculate Reception, even though there are similarities, just because it has had a decade less to have its legend grow. Or the nickname, as I said before, it's just, it's the catch. It's a bit more standard. It's not the Immaculate Reception. Maybe there isn't the drama of the deflection, not the artistic value of the play, if you will. But the 49ers were the team of the 80s, just like the Steelers were the team of the 70s. But the thing was also, I will say this, maybe it was that the 49ers, the year after the catch, after they won their first Super Bowl, next season they had a losing record. The Steelers just won after the Immaculate Reception. They made the playoffs every year. The 49ers actually, they were, well, wait a minute. Car stalled out. Hold on. Let's get this going again. Got to pop the clutch. That was the 49ers then. But maybe it's a fact that the play occurred on third down and the Immaculate Reception occurred on fourth down. All these reasons why maybe the Immaculate Reception just a little bit higher than the catch. But if you're looking for that other great play in NFL history, that's going to be the one I choose. By the way, some other great plays, Tennessee fans will say, what about the Music City Miracle? Yeah, great play. Deserves to be in the top 10. Absolutely. Probably I would say in the top 5. But the Titans didn't go on to win a Super Bowl, and they never made it back to the Super Bowl. If anything, it's been branded as a play of Buffalo failure rather than Tennessee success, considering that the legacy of the play is the Bills wouldn't make the playoffs for another 18 years. Other plays Case has against over, not against, the Minneapolis Miracle that he ranks ahead of, I should say, is proper grammar. James Harrison's 101-yard touchdown return in Super Bowl 43. Love that play. I like it not just because it wasn't game-ending. It was half-ending, but it did win the ball game for the Steelers. There was the artistic value. I mean, it took an hour and a half for Harrison to get down the field. It was so exciting to watch. It was improbable. Ultimately won the game. And another reason I like it, it gives me another reason to hate Mike Tomlin. Because the Steelers had a 10-point lead over a 9-7 team in the Super Bowl. They should have absolutely then crushed the Cardinals in the second half. Instead, they lost the lead and had to win the game in the last minute. So there you go. That's another reason to hate Mike Tomlin. It's the 101-yard James Harrison touchdown return and the fact that he has shown absolutely no loyalty to Harrison after that play, cutting him not once but twice. The other play that Case ranks ahead of the Minneapolis Miracle that we haven't talked about yet, David Tyree's catch off his helmet in Super Bowl 42. You realize that was his last catch in the NFL? David literally slaying the Goliath that were the 18-0 New England Patriots, with a little help from Eli Manning, who should go down as one of the great 2-minute quarterbacks of all time. And if you're looking for something that he has above his brother, that's it. Now, those plays will have advantages in the historical rankings over the Minneapolis Miracle because they occurred in the Super Bowl. But if the Vikings do go on to win the big dance, and if Case Keenum becomes an elite quarterback, which I do not put beyond him, I think that's going to happen, then we will have seen what will go down as one of the top 3 plays in NFL history. It'll be the Immaculate Reception, the catch, and then the Minneapolis Miracle, in my opinion. Improbability, destiny, and a change in the franchise's reputation. Yeah, both the Immaculate Reception and the catch had those. The Minneapolis Miracle could easily, very easily, do the same. I'm Marky Billson. There's nobody who has more of a knowledge of the totality of the whole than I do. Yeah, I've taken some time telling you about this. I've got a sports update coming up. Tri-City Sports Now will return after this.
Stone Destination Tires take you anywhere you want to go.
Designed to be responsive and with solid traction, there is a Firestone Destination tire that's right for you.
So whether you drive a truck or SUV, on the highway or the road less traveled, remember whatever you drive a Firestone.
Available at Garland Tire, 1212 North Main Avenue in Irwin, serving Unicoi County for 68 years.
Here's an update from 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities. Tennessee basketball player Grant Williams is the SEC Player of the Week. Last week, 23 points and 6 rebounds and 2 wins for the Volunteers, who are now up to number 21 in both the AP and the coaches poll. Up next for the Volunteers, they play at Missouri coming up on Wednesday.